Mike, pronouns he, him, calling in from scandalous crawdads. That's so stupid. Atheists and theists are using the same logic but different premises, like in the problem of evil. Let's see how this connects to our last call. Mike, you are on the Atheist Experience with Forrest and Ben. How are you doing?
Hey, good. I feel bad about that last caller in Russia. They're going to give you a rough time a little bit from the get-go. He's in an atheist country, and they're not allowing doctors with borders. Did I hear that right?
I don't know.
There's situations with Doctors Without Borders can't go into every single country because they have to work a negotiation thing with the countries they go into, because they legally have to be present in the country. So if they can't get legal access to a place, of course they cannot provide services there. There's also I'm guessing there's some stuff going along with the war situation as well, contributing to that.
Yeah.
There are a few countries that are in some more violent situations where they're not able to extend it into for a variety of reasons. So I feel like I know where you're going with this thing, but I have multiple problems with that particular line that you're going down. So how about let's just talk about what your main question is today.
I would also point out that to call Russia an atheist country doesn't really make a lot of sense. I just pulled up the 2022 report on international religious freedom from the U.S. State Department on Russia, that only 15% of the country reports having no religious faith. There's a reason why Russian Orthodox Church is a thing. So the government may be secular, but they're certainly not just an atheist country. I think that Norway is way more atheist than Russia, and certainly doesn't have nearly the problems.
Oh, I had a neighbor who grew up in Russia, and a required class, he was a civil engineer, he had atheism as a required class in college. I was like, oh, great.
Okay.
Maybe
I wouldn't know anything about that.
I was just bringing it up to give you a rough time. I did. Yeah, I did. All right.
Okay, what's your
I think we actually, my point was, I think atheists and theists have, I like how you reason and your logic, and I'll hear you go down a logic trail, and it makes a lot of sense. But I don't always agree on the premises that you have. We have different ones, and what do they call that? Smuggling in? When you're smuggling in something and you just start doing a logic trail, but you already established something. I'm not a big logic. That wasn't my major in college. But what I'm bringing up is atheists approach things that, no, God is evil or doesn't exist. And then theists approach it as, no, God is good. And then we just go from there. And then we, like the last call, you got, wow, this world is crappy and da-da-da. And well, if God's in charge, you guys are right. But God's crystal clear. He gave it to people. He calls Satan the prince of the world. He's not in charge of this world we're in. But he will be in heaven, but this isn't heaven. So I don't even, knowing that God's not in charge.
So God's not directly overseeing the world. This isn't God's house and God's in control. God sent all his kids to daycare, and he knows the person who manages the daycare loves to kick children, but that's just what it's going to have to be, because eventually the kids will come home, but only the kids who are nice about it. And when the kids got kicked a bunch at the daycare and still wanted to come home and be worshipful and thankful, they're cool. The other ones get thrown in the meat grinder behind the daycare. What a weird thing that your God has set up here, dude. What an unnecessarily stupid and cruel system that your God has created.
Well, again, you're right with what you just said. The daycare analogy, you're absolutely right. Your premise is wrong. It's not a daycare. It's people deciding, do they want to live their life, or do they want God their creator, to be in charge of their life? That's all we're here is to make a decision, really.
But you just said that God isn't in charge of the world. Satan is.
He's the prince of the world, whatever that means. He has an influence, a strong influence.
If you had somebody, if you had children and you love your children, and there's this guy over here who likes to abuse children, would you put that person in charge of your children's lives in any capacity whatsoever?
Here we go again. What you're worried about, what you're concerned about, it's a good concern, is why are people suffering? The suffering is too much. Would you be happy if
I'm just asking about your God. Just asking about your God.
He hates this. He hates it when people sin. He hates it when people are bad to each other. The people that are torturing children and leading people astray are going to be worse off afterwards in hell than people who just like, nah, I don't want to follow God. But the point that really cause trouble.
But here's the problem, though, too. It's not
crystal clear as well.
No, but there's some other problems here, because it's very easy to sit back on the sins that we can all agree are bad. But we run into some other things, too, of apparently no matter what I do, I could never make it to heaven because I'm queer.
There you go.
So is that like, am I just fucked? Like, I'm just destined for hell. Like, is that okay? Am I better off in hell?
Queer, like gay or
yeah. I am a bisexual trans man. Am I better off in hell?
Does it mean anything to you that being gay or queer didn't even make the top 10 commandments? Does that mean anything, like where it is as far as sin goes? It's not
so you're one of the people. So am I getting this right, that you don't believe that being gay is a sin? Are we on the same page there?
Gay is one of the many sins that you and I have committed. Yes.
So it is a sin. So you are saying it is a sin.
Probably.
Do all?
Oh yeah.
Like yeah, if that was my only if that was my only sin, would I go to hell for that?
Yep.
So basically, no matter what I do, even if I was completely perfect in every other way, that would say I am just destined. I'm destined for hell, and there's nothing I can do about it. Is that good?
Well, it depends on if you're trying to do God's will or not. If you're saying, "Hey, look, I really don't want to do this. I want to do it your way," and you're actually struggling with it instead of just like, "This is what I'm going to do," then that's.
I don't accept that for a minute. Okay. So,
I would love it, Mike.
So, Mike, if there was, so if there was a God, if I had a God, my God thinks that being straight is a sin. And if you're married, your marriage should be dissolved. You should just pretend like you never were straight. Don't even think those thoughts. Like, you need to repent from your heterosexuality. And if you choose to live that lifestyle of heterosexuality, then you're destined for hell, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you can either live my God's way, or you can do your own thing. Would that be a good thing to do if my God was the correct one?
Well, where you're going with this is, if you think you're born with it, if you have an urge from day one, then it must be good, and that's not true.
Did you have an urge? Hold on, Mike, are you straight? Are you straight? Are you heterosexual?
I don't think I should have to answer that.
Okay, yeah, I shouldn't have to answer about my sexuality either. So that's something personal, private to you, right? That's something that nobody should really have any business in. But even so, even if you don't feel comfortable talking about it, do you think that straight people have sexual urges from day one of their life on this planet? Do you think that's realistic?
I mean, as an infant, that's actually another good question, is why are we teaching sexual things to, kindergartners, first, second, third grade even?
Okay, that's a whole separate thing, and we're not, and Mike, we're not doing that. Yeah, we're not doing that.
It would be so cool if you actually just addressed anything that Ben actually said to you, rather than just pivoting to something that's more comfortable for you to be grumpy about. Actually answer his questions, or we're gonna move on.
Go ahead, rapid fire me. Do it, rapid fire.
No, answer the question I just gave you.
Great. I don't know when sexual urges hit. Don't know. Go.
Okay.
I don't know.
So if that's the case, so you don't know enough even to talk about that. But the fact that you're saying that, if it's something that you were told you were born this way and you're gay, like, how does that make me any different than someone who was born straight other than like my sexual preference? Why is that a sin for me? But like, can you imagine if you were told that you can't be your authentic self, you can't you can't be the you that you've always been? That's kind of shitty. If you like just knew that you couldn't fit in anywhere in society, you were going to be kicked out of your house, you were going to be told by your church, you know, you're a sinner, all of those things. Why is it okay for people to do that to queer people?
Muslim now, right?
Talking Christians,
this is what Christians do. This is what Christians do. This is what Christians do.
Not that I've heard of, not like Muslims. Unless you're talking Muslims, then I'm like, yeah. Right.
When's the last time you lived when's the last time you came out as queer to your family?
Well, I had a gay, I had a gay friend all through college, and we hung out.
Yeah, so you're talking about your gay friend. So you have N equals 1. You know, one person. Don't even begin to tell me how queer people are not persecuted by the church in this country.
I'm saying they're not alone, and they're not alone in their.
They're not alone. They're not alone because it's not sinful.
Where I live, Mike, where I live here in Oklahoma, it is legal for a landlord to evict a tenant if they are gay. So like, it's not just your parents kicking you out of your house. I live in a place where you can be kicked out of your home by someone who isn't even your parent if they find out that you are not straight. It's ridiculous that you would say that this. Yeah,
I'm going to check on that.
Do it.
Oh, seriously,
like you can be fired for it here in Oklahoma. Okay. I don't care if you don't believe it. Even if what I was saying isn't true, which it fucking is, but even if what I was saying wasn't true, it doesn't change the lived experience of people in their homes. What Ben was saying is a daily reality for kids who get kicked out of their homes, get sent to conversion therapy, get sent to pray the gay away camps and all sorts of things, who get discriminated against at school, get discriminated against at work, get discriminated against at public settings. This is a real live thing that happens all the time. And all Ben's trying to do is get you to grapple for 1 second with the reality of that situation and imagine how it would be for you. And it seems like you were more interested in dodging to other random things and blaming Muslims and trying to ask questions about law. Just for a second, put yourself in Ben's shoes. Imagine being a queer trans person and what it must be like to live in this society. Imagine what that feels like for a second, being told that because of this monster in the sky that I believe in, you deserve eternal torture and fire. Imagine what that feels like, dude.
May I answer that question?
That's why I asked it.
Answer the question.
Okay. First of all, that anybody kicking you out is wrong. Treating you different is wrong. I just consider being gay or queer the least of anybody's sins. Coveting is much worse.
Like God, who kicks you out of heaven and treats you differently if you're gay.
Yeah, and stop dodging to other sins, because you said that this sin alone would be enough to send me to hell. So clearly it matters, and clearly you believe that queer people belong in hell. Do you not believe that?
Everybody belongs in hell. Can I be clear on that? Everybody belongs in hell. Everybody has sinned.
Gross. And you're saying that to make yourself sound better.
I don't even know where
you are saying that to make yourself sound better. But the statement is true. And it is a terrible, and you should feel bad. And you should feel bad about believing that. You believe that other humans belong in a place where they're going to be eternally tortured for something that just is their reality. Like, the fact that you can look at another human and say that that is okay, and that it's okay for your God to allow that to happen, like, it blows my mind that a human could look at another human and think those things. And I don't think that you necessarily believe that if you weren't. Maybe I'm speaking, I'm not trying to like speak on your behalf, but were you raised in the Christian faith?
Yes and no. I was raised Lutheran, and then we went to a Methodist church because that's where everybody went.
Okay, so yes.
And then by the time
So yes,
so if you
all of that is Christian, dude.
I think if you weren't raised in that, you might think differently. But it's really sad to know that, like, you're holding on to this because somebody told you, like multiple people told you in the past, that people that were different than you deserve to be tortured.
No, I discarded all that as a child. I became a Christian when I was in my 20s, and I didn't believe any of that. No, and they weren't teaching that.
Okay, so that's even worse, actually. So that's even worse. So you thought about it. So these people told you these things were true. You said, let me think about it for myself. Oh, actually, I do believe that people who are different than me should be tortured forever. So you made the conscious decision to keep that belief system. Okay.
Oof. You've got an impossible scenario. You didn't commit one sin, so this is kind of nonsense. You're not going to hell because
it's a hypothetical to get you to
being gay. It was everything else.
But
don't worry,
it's just a hypothetical.
You keep going to those other things because you're afraid of what it means for you to agree with what we're saying. But that is what you are agreeing with. If you agree, if you say that any sin sends you to hell and being queer is a sin, and that should send you to hell. That is what you are agreeing with. So stop dodging, stop going to these other points because you do agree with this. Now you have to accept, you either have to accept that point and accept that that's a really shitty thing that you believe in, or you have to change your mind on it. You have a choice here. And if we're going to go with the whole free will thing.
I mean, let's go back to the original premises. We're in God's house, his universe. It's not yours. It's not mine.
No, why did God think that people deserve to be punished for eternity for being gay?
It's not how he designed it. It's his rules. Go argue with God.
Yeah. So I mean, you're God's asshole.
Doing something God doesn't want you to do.
Did God create people?
Yes.
Does God create every person? Like it says in the Bible, I knew you in the womb and everything. Does God create every person?
I believe that to be true, yes. That does have...
Okay, so then God made Ben to be gay and trans and then is going to punish him for it. Is that what I'm hearing?
God made him with urges just like I do. I have urges that, I envy people. I want stuff. Everybody's got these.
Are you either bisexual or transgender, sir?
No.
Okay, so then don't say this bullshit. Don't say this bullshit about how God gave you some urges too. That's a completely different thing. You said specifically that Ben's sexuality is what makes him worthy of hell. So your other urges don't qualify here. God made Ben to be bi and trans and then said, if you go through with the way that I have created you on purpose, I am going to punish you for all eternity. That's what your God did. Also, does your God know all things?
For a woman, that's in the top 10, which you shouldn't do.
Does your God know all things? Does your God know all things?
Pardon?
Does your God know all things, past, present, and future?
Yes.
Okay, so then God made Ben knowing who he was going to be, knowing who he was going to love, knowing what was going to happen ahead of time. And so God made Ben specifically so that he could send him to hell. And everybody else who goes to hell, God made them to go to hell.
So I want to keep
it doesn't matter what their choices are. It doesn't matter what the choice is. If I TiVo a football game and I now have a recording of the entire game and I know who's going to win and I know every pass and every play, those players had free choice, but I know the whole thing. So if I say I'm going to punish the losing team, it doesn't matter if they had free choice. I already knew the outcome. So if God already knows the outcome and he made people on purpose, he made them in order to send them to hell. That is the end goal. Why would a God do that?
because you're actually twisting it a little bit. Just because God
How?
knows the outcome doesn't mean he's affecting your free will. Those are two different things, and that's hard to grasp.
I didn't say he was. I didn't say he was. I didn't say he was. We could have all the free will in the world. If God knows how we are going to exhibit that free will before we are even born, and he allows us to be born in the circumstances that enact the decisions that we're going to make anyway, if he knows the outcome of the game, it doesn't matter how much free will we have. If he knows the ending, then he is deliberately making people in order for them to go to hell. And he has all the power in the world to change it, and he doesn't.
Affect your free will. He happens to know what you're going to do, but he's not affecting it. You're making the choice to follow your urges or to follow God. And I'm doing the same thing, and so are you, Forrest.
And that football team had the choice to play better and win, and they didn't do it. And that means it's okay for me to punish them, right?
Well, if they lose, they lose. You make your choices, and then you stand on your choices. God happens to know the answer, and it drives us bonkers, but he's not affecting.
So those kids,
as far as
those kids that were so those kids in the last call that chose to be born into a North Korean family, what they could have just not followed their urges and been born into a rich American family.
You don't get to choose where you're born. That's nonsense. Why did you say that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things we don't get to
Precisely.
choose, even with free will. There's a lot of things we don't get to choose, right?
You get to choose your life decisions, whether you want to follow God or follow yourself. That's it. And the rest is, and there's a lot of struggle. And
So if God created a situation, where you just being yourself was bad, do you think he would be a good or a bad person to assign those rules and then make somebody so that the things that they were bad?
I know what you're saying. I love ice cream. And the more I eat, the sicker I get and the fatter I get. That sucks. And all this health food, I don't really
That is not the same thing. That is not the same thing.
Not the same thing at all.
It's not the same thing at all. No.
It sounds like you have been so convinced by terrible analogies that you think that we will also be convinced by terrible analogies, and I promise we won't. We've been doing this shit for a long time, and it sucks that you can stare morality in the face and then make some bullshit analogy or dodge to some other thing so you can say, actually, no, it's different sometimes, because when somebody's in charge, it doesn't actually matter what they do. It's good because they're in charge. This might equals right bullshit. It's really fucking gross, Mike.
No. That is the reason I called was if you got somebody who makes, the potter makes the pot. He gets to decide if that pot's going to put pee in it or food or whatever. The pot doesn't get to decide. God created us. He gets to decide.
And that's shitty. And that actually, that analogy goes exactly with what we were saying. That is, and that passage says exactly that there are some people that were created by God to be tortured.
Mm-hmm.
You think that that's a good thing. And you think that that is a good thing. The difference here is that we don't think that's a good thing. We do not accept that.
They're not.
And
no,
we think that,
I don't think it's a good thing. And you guys are doing Doctors Without Borders. Obviously, you don't either.
So is your God? So it sounds like your God is capable of doing things that are not good. Then
he's capable of letting us get into a lot of trouble and a lot of pain, and some of it's our fault, and some of it isn't. And in heaven,
you just said, hold on. But you just said that he's capable. He's the potter. He's capable of creating the pot to be used for any number of purposes, right? You did say that. Do you believe that?
That is true.
So God made if there had to be a pot for someone to pee in, God would have had to make that pot, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people have urges to be gay, and some people have urges to.
Okay, so hold on. Some
people have urges to be peed on, like a pot.
So God makes scenarios and makes circumstances that are not good.
Well, he makes scenarios where it's a struggle.
He makes evil. He said so himself. He said he creates evil. So he makes the scenarios that aren't good for people to suffer in.
Yep.
No, Forrest, you quoted Isaiah, was it 45:7? And it says God created evil, and the correct interpretation, or the one that people believe is true. Some of them say evil, but he creates calamities. and calamities are struggles again. We're back to that. But he doesn't create evil. You can't even.
I form the light and create darkness. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I am the Lord, do all these things. So evil is the word that's in the text, not calamity.
The interpretations on that, they say calamity. Yeah,
but even if, God damn, dude, even if you want to say that particular passage of scripture isn't right, we can go right back to what we talked about in the other call. At the end of the day, God is all powerful and all knowing. He is in control of everything and supposedly has a plan. And no matter what happens, everything somehow or another is leading towards his plan. So at the end of the day, even the evil things are part of God's plan. There is intention.
Well, he turns. That's not quite right either. He turns evil things and he can make them good. But we're out creating mischief and evil.
So
is just doing what God wouldn't.
So is
all this.
So
how do you turn?
Is the loss of life of a baby in North Korea who starved to death? Is the lesson that somebody learned from that worth the cost of that baby's life?
I have no idea, but I know the fact that we're talking about it could change your life for the better. That's all, and that's pretty.
I don't think that I would ever agree with. I wouldn't even question like this particular piece. Like I think that no matter how you spin it, like that baby dying is bad. Like that is a bad thing, and that the lesson that it doesn't matter what lesson you learn from that, human life should not have been the cost of that lesson. Like no lesson is worth that.
It's only bad from a Christian point of view, or theist, or atheist point of view. From an atheist point of view, baby dying, hey, it's evolution. Tough nuts. I mean,
not at all.
You can say
0%. So it goes to show that, like, Mike, you don't appear to have ever actually talked to anyone who disagrees with you in a serious way. Because for you to sit here and say that, number one, all atheists believe in evolution, that's not right. Number two, I'm a fucking biologist. I could tell you quite a bit about evolution. No, I study evolution for a living. I don't see dead babies as just, fuck it, it's collateral damage, it's evolution. I don't see things that way at all. You are inventing a shitty worldview to propose on us in order to try to accommodate your shitty worldview, which is that the best, most moral thing in the universe, the being that is defined as love incarnate, is totally cool with those babies dying because it's for a better purpose that they like. It's this big part of this message. It's to teach a lesson. It's part of the plan. It's whatever. Maybe that baby wasn't a good enough Christian. Who knows? And then those babies that die all over the world, they weren't actually in a Christian country. They never learned about Jesus, so they get to go to hell. Meanwhile, Jeffrey Dahmer and Hitler, they repent on their last day. They get to go to the theme park in the sky with God.
You're entertaining, but I said none of that, nor would I ever agree to that. No.
Right, but doesn't it suck for me to sit here and bullshit straw man your opinion? Wouldn't it be nicer if I actually grappled with what you specifically were saying and not what other callers or what other random people have said? Because I've gotten calls that have said all those things, but you sure didn't. So wouldn't it be cool if I grappled with your opinions rather than putting words in your mouth?
Do you have a question for me, or what are we doing here?
Yeah, the question is, why the fuck would you sit here and say that us atheists don't care about dead babies because that's just evolution, rather than actually grappling with the things that we are talking to you about?
Well, it's a side issue, and I don't expect you to answer it because your names are out there in public, and that'd be very uncool, and you're doing Doctors Without Borders, which is very cool. So, but that's like the Thanos problem that atheists have, which is half the people disappeared, hey, more resources for the other half. That's a problem with being atheist. That's why you have bad PR. People
no, it's absolutely not. No, because
not
our goal as secular humanists is to make the world better so fewer bad things happen to people. We acknowledge that bad things happen. We don't accept that there was a God having a better plan with relation to it. We know that bad things happen. We're doing the best that we can to make fewer bad things happen. And that doesn't take away from the fact that these things are very, very horrible. And along with that, evolution is on a population level and not on an individual level. So just had to throw that point in too.
It's just
you're
stupid.
getting a lot of things wrong here.
It's a ridiculous straw man of evolution and of atheism. And just to be clear, there is no Thanos problem. Thanos was wrong. Killing 50% of the population is a wrong thing to do. As an atheist, I wouldn't want that to happen. There's no amount of resource partitioning that would make me want that to happen. Once again, see, this is what's so fucking frustrating about you, Mike, is that you just made a bullshit straw man of atheism saying that we're cool with babies dying. And then when I confront you about it, you say, well, you'd be cool with 50% of the whole human race dying. No, we fucking wouldn't. You have yet to actually grapple with anything that Ben or I have said. You just keep dodging and pivoting to some other fucking thing or putting some weird ass accusation on atheism. It would be amazing if you could actually own up to your own beliefs instead of just trying to attack ours or pivot to something more comfortable for you.
No, those are side issues. You're right. But I think they're true. But
no, we're on it now. It's not fucking true. You have two atheists sitting here telling you that that is not at all how our worldview works. Now the ball's in your court. Do you still think that we think that dead babies are a good thing because evolution? Or are you going to listen to the people who are telling you with our own mouths that that isn't what we believe?
I don't think it's a good thing, except for the part where the less people there are, the more resources you have. If you want to be a real,
we didn't ask what you think.
atheist.
We didn't ask. We asked if you were going to stop putting words in our mouths, and if you have a question about our position, ask us. And along with that, not all atheists have the same position on everything. So you need to ask us what we believe before you tell us what we think is okay and what isn't. Because we'll tell you our position. And in fact, we have been telling you this whole time, and you're just not listening to it.
I believe you. I mean, I'm saying it's a problem of atheists, of the atheist thought, which is people are.
And again, there's not the atheist thought. There is no the atheist thought.
Yes.
There are individual people with individual perspectives.
Ben.
Yeah, we're all individuals with individual perspectives. There is one thing that links us, and that we are not convinced in a higher power, and that's it. But we disagree. There's so many atheists that disagree on everything else from that point. But we just do not accept that claim.
The same way that just a minute ago, I recited several Christian claims that I have received on this show, and you took umbrage with it, saying, I didn't say all those things. Why are you saying those things about me? Yeah, you could do that about anybody. Ben and I are sitting here telling you what we believe and asking you why you believe something. And all you keep doing is pivoting to other bullshit talking points and telling us what you think we believe, which is distinctly different than what we have been telling you we believe this whole time. It's immensely dishonest, dude.
Well, I mean, okay, now you just twisted a little bit. I went too far. You can't discuss the Thanos problem or anything. You can't. It's just
there is no Thanos problem.
We said we don't accept the argument you're saying we support. We don't accept your premises.
Well, here's the deal. Doctors Without Borders is a great organization, and it's great you're supporting.
Agreed.
You're switching again to other things. Stick with one fucking point, Mike. It's funny because we will debunk something that you've said, and then you'll get angry and switch to something else, and then just keep going around in circles with these different things because you don't want to address what we're actually talking about.
Well, okay, let's talk. What do you want to talk about? I'm not angry.
We have been, and you haven't been listening. So I feel like this is kind of a waste of time, Mike.
I'll give you one more that we can talk about. Why is your God okay with the evil and suffering in the world? Why is it okay for him and he doesn't intervene to stop it?
Okay, there are a couple premises in there. He's not okay with it, and it breaks his heart. And he's letting us do free will for the time being.
If someone was hurting your children and breaking your heart, would you put a stop to it? Or would you just watch it happen and just be heartbroken?
Apparently, God's not going to step in, although it seems to. Sometimes I don't know. I don't want to get into stuff you can't prove, but he's staying out of as much as possible so we have free will as much as possible. And then when it's over, then in heaven, there's not going to be dead babies and people torturing each other.
Okay, so then the free will of the rapists, murderers, and pedophiles of this world is more important to God than protecting his children.
He's looking long game. I mean, that sounds tough, but I mean, you're just like, hey,
so if
7 years, you're out. God's looking at it forever. You got a different.
Once again, if you saw someone abusing a child, would you step in and stop them, Mike? Or would you say, long game, this guy's going to hell anyway, it's cool?
All right. You did the premise thing again. God has different rules than we do, and he does, because he's the creator.
Your God is either weak or evil, Mike. Anybody who would see a world like this and not try to fix it and just say, well, at the end of the day, it's going to work out in my favor anyway, is a monster. And I think you're better than this God. You just can't fucking face it. So we're going to move on. It's been 34 minutes. It's been extremely frustrating. Yeah. Ben, you have one thing at the end here?
Yeah, just one last point. I just want to say for both this caller and the previous one about the problem of evil that, like, I love that we see people wanting to keep humans so accountable for the things that we do, but none of you are holding your God accountable.
Absolutely. Well, because it's different, Ben. Don't you understand? God can do whatever he wants because he's God. And that means that anything he does is moral. And that means that when he watches rapists and murderers and all these things and does nothing about it, it's actually cool that that guy does it because it's special. It's almost as if we're doing some sort of pleading that's special. You could call it like special pleading. I don't know. Mike, you're better than your God. Think about it. Call us back. Goodbye. What an immensely frustrating call.
Yeah.
Wow. Just deeply, deeply gross. But it's cool because, I mean, what can we say? We like it when babies die because evolution, you know?
Yeah, no, it's bad. It's bad for those things to happen, but it's worse for you to like somebody of the same gender.
Yeah, well, it's because all sins are the same, you know?
Yep.
So, like, you know, when he has this 10 commandments list, which Mike made sure to mention several times, but it doesn't matter because all sins are the same and everybody deserves hell. And so, like, who fucking cares anyway, you know?